meaningful to talk to clients about. So you're not going to spend your relationship capital talking about things you're going to lose on. You're going to talk about things you want to win on. And that's where we need to change the mind share, right, of the RMs. Oh, this is a great team. They're supportive. The products are winning propositions. How do we go win more, win more, win more, win more? So it's going to be, they use the thing is a lot of all gas, no break here. We've committed to some timelines as well with the CEO in Tokyo when I was there. He asked if I could even go faster than we're doing. I think we're going pretty rapidly already as we're changing the culture and breaking down some of the barriers in terms of how we operate, how long the approval process is, how do we think about the client. It's got to be first and foremost in everything we do in any business. It's who are you trying to appeal to, and is what you're positioning to them, providing to them, a service, a good, sufficient for them to say, I want to use it? Or is it like, it's like everybody else. You never want to be, again, we don't want to be average here. No one wants, it's the lowest common denominator. You want to be great, or you don't want to be. And that's what we're going to achieve here in this organization. So I'm excited. I've been here 5 weeks. As I mentioned, it's been a short time. Excited to, have an impact on the organization, on the team, develop the next generation of great leaders, as well as some amazing products as we go along this journey here. So I said a lot in a short cycle. I see there's a bunch of hands up. I'll let Kelly speak, and then we can go to Q&A. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Yes, echoing what Craig said too, and maybe too, I can elaborate on a bit too on why I chose to come to SMBC 5 years ago too, and it kind of dovetails with what we're doing here, where SMBC is really transforming the institution that we are and really growing and really being super client focused. Even in my old world within the corporate and investment banking side of the business where I've always been, seeing what we're doing at SMBC and the key talent that we're hiring and the focus that we have to further grow our business for our clients is really inspiring to see. So that was the reason that I came to SMBC. And then the reason that I moved to the product side of the world, working for Craig on the cash management side, is at the core of banking is cash. Every client uses cash management. So the exposure that you'll have to different industries is pretty incredible for cash management too. Not every client issues a bond. Not every client issues or uses project finance or other products, where everybody at the core of everything is cash. So having that visibility, I think, to different sectors is really interesting early in careers too. And the client approach that we're taking, like Craig said too, being in a position to build something for current needs right now is very, very unique in a very mature market for U.S. financial institutions. So having that opportunity to really have impact to clients and building to what needs exist now, where maybe underserved by the market, is really going to be something that I'm looking forward to a lot. And then echoing what Craig said too, I think mentoring is very key to any institution too, and making sure that the team that you're working for is fun too, because at the end of the day, we can't do anything by ourselves. Everything is so team oriented, and that is not lost on me. So being a part of teams my entire career has been key, and continues to teach me new things every day too, which keeps me going. But yeah, happy to take any questions too.
Yeah, happy to start with some questions. Let's see who's up first. And then I will do a quick recap of just some of the campus recruitment stuff at the tail end of the call. But I believe the first hand up was Sandeep. If you could come off of mute and ask your question. Sandeep Sharma.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. My name is Jaideep Sarma, and so I'm currently a junior. And I want to kind of bring it back to what I heard Mr. Craig said, where he was talking about like reimagining and rebuilding how you like pay and collect money, which I thought was really interesting. And so bringing it to that, I was wondering like what types of projects and like initiatives are you guys planning or have previously worked on within like the cash management department that you thought was like pretty interesting?
Yeah, so initially we're going to be doing like basic stuff, right? You want to pay your staff, but you envision like how like embedding a Venmo into a website to collect from a client, and then even now in the U.S. there's like real-time payment capabilities, not as frequently used yet, right? But the ability for me to pay you instantly, forget Venmo, right? I could do it instantly. You got good funds, we all know it's good. Just if you imagine a world where it's like cheap to do that, everyone can do it. I'll give an example in my head in terms of what I can envision. So let's say you're driving, your car gets in an accident. You call the insurance company, oh my gosh, I've got an accident. What do I do? The insurance adjuster comes out, looks at your car. While he's there or she's there, they hit a button. Boom, the money's on your phone in a second, right? There's no like, gee, I gotta wait for the check in the mail. I wonder how much money I'll get. It's like instant. It's all about eliminating the friction in the customer process, right? A lost luggage, another example. You lose my luggage on the plane, although it's less frequent these days, or my flight gets canceled and I'm like angry. Like, what about I gotta get somewhere. I'll give you money right now. You're standing in front of, just think about the temperature of the customer goes down immediately. So things where we can reduce friction for both, not only in the payment space, but also in the customer experience on behalf of our customers, I think is the way we need to envision like what the future will be. So we'll meet the current and the future needs as we think about what we're building. Hopefully that helps, JD.
That's really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaydeep. Okay, I'm going to lower your hand. And then I believe the next person in line was Noah Griffin.
Hello, thanks for taking the time. I'm Noah from Lehigh University, and I'm currently a senior. I was just curious, coming from a non-dominant position in the market, what is the mentality and philosophy of the group in terms of differentiating themselves, and how are you convincing clients that are kind of not wanting to come around, that aren't really buying in on the new product? Like, well, how does that get done? How do you execute that transformation?
No, that's a great question, right? So as I look about where we want to be and what we want to be, I think there's like incremental steps we have to take. So again, I know I'm never going to be JP Morgan in 80 countries concentrating money, right? We're going to play in the lane we want to play in. And there's a slide that I know Kelly can visualize in her head too, which is what I use to explain where we want to go. So if you think about all the capabilities that we're going to need, every client's going to need the ability to deposit money, right? And leave money with us. And how do we invest that and give them the yields, and especially a rate declining environment as we're encountering now? Still better than it was like 10 years ago, but still. So how do we think about that? And then what are the levels of sophistication, to your point, around? So like if I think of, I'll just make up a company, Apple, right? Then I don't think they're a client here. In fact, I know they're not. So let's say if Apple was an example, I'm never going to be the one bank that Apple uses in the U.S. I would want to get pieces of their business. So when I think about where I want to be for larger multinationals that are complex like that, I'm looking for a slice of it. But then you go further downstream for organizations that are less sophisticated, simpler needs. I want to be that one bank, right? What's it going to take for me to get Kelly to knock on that door, run through that door, and get that business, right? So as I tell the team, I think my observations in my first 5 weeks, more on, not on the relationship team, but on the cash management team itself that I'm working with. They're waiting for the coconut to fall rather than climbing to get it. So you always want to be like the one driving your destiny. You don't want to be the victim, right? You want to control what you can do. Here, I think the ability to compete in the lanes we want to play in. Not all things to all people. Never going to be that, man. We're not doing the spray and pray. We're going to throw a bunch of stuff and hope something sticks. We're going to be very intentional and thoughtful about what we do and how we target those customers, which is why interviewing them, right, and getting their insights on what they want is the critical aspect of success. Most companies don't do that. Most of these like startups, these, the fintechs I've worked with, right? Like, oh, I got this great idea. I'm like, that's great, but who's going to use it? I don't know yet. We're going to figure it out. Like here, we've got the user base installed. That's the difference, right? They're already working with us, right? We're lending them a lot of money, which gives us the right to ask for the business, which needs to be a compelling offering. I hope that helps, Noah.
It does. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I would add too to Craig's point and echo it all starts with the client too. When we're talking to our clients, even when they're working with very, very evolved cash management banks today, there are still needs that aren't fully being met. There are still pain points. So being able to tackle those pieces that are felt across industries gives us a real opportunity to be a disruptor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Noah. Next up is going to be Jack.
Hi, yeah, my name's Jack, University of Washington Junior. My question's related to how does SMBC weather financial storms, in particular on the cash management side, in a way that is able to help keep the client happy and then also maintain their assets? Because as you said, you're putting the client first. So I want to know, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I mean, there's kind of two ways we think about kind of the economics of the business to some extent. One is, how you generate income, right? So I will tell you that I personally feel we're overweighted on, interest income based on the balances our clients are leaving us today and not charging enough in fees. We're trying to balance that. So talking about weathering the storm. So no matter if rates fall, no matter where they fall, you always got kind of the annuity stream, in terms of how you generate revenue in general. Cash management is typically an annuity stream. The flip side of it is the episodic business where you're doing deals and things that pop up here and there, right? And that's a little less predictable. So the regulations in the U.S. around banking for foreign or domestic banks, right, are kind of similar around. You have to have a certain amount of capital cushion in order to withstand, right, the dark days, and that's kind of Basel III and all those stress tests that everyone does. And partly, honestly, cash management is one of the areas that brings in the deposits. If you link them to the payments activity that organizations do in terms of linking to payroll and all, the regulators require you to carry less cash as an institution. So those funds are more valuable, honestly, 7 times in this institution, more valuable than non in terms of how we run the business. So it's around being thoughtful around who you're doing business with, what you're trying to sell, not be too heavy either way on episodic or annuity, trying to balance it so that you generate the right level of mix of revenue so you can withstand the ups and downs, right? And that's what I mean. Banking in general is just risk management. So it's how you manage that risk, through the various offerings, the things you sell, who you bank, how you bank them, what you want to do. You want to be, are we selling something in Tokyo? Are we selling something here? It's all interlinked. It's just about, what level of risk you're willing to take and how you think about mitigating it. Even on this capability we're building here, in my mind, I keep thinking the tech risk is huge. How do I mitigate that? How do I find a way that I can go to bed at night and be comfortable knowing that, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather, as you may or may not be able to tell. So as we think about how do we mitigate that technology risk, the ability to deliver in a timely way, in an appropriate way, it's client back, that keeps me up at night, but it's not that different from how the franchise is run overall. It's just about making sure you're complying with the regs and making thoughtful business, and again, intentional business decisions. Sometimes you got to say no. That's usually the best risk banks are ones that say no. You don't say yes to everybody for everything, because then you may be like, kind of down the road to Abilene, as they said.
Okay,
Hope that
I
helped,
think
Jack.
no, that does. It makes a lot of sense. I guess really quick follow up is just what makes you different, say, from like a Morgan Stanley or Citibank, where you worked, in terms of how you mitigate risk.
From a risk perspective, I mean, there's, like when I was at JP Morgan, there was a committee for everything. And you even had to present to the board of directors on an annual basis around payments. Here it's a smaller shop, right? So you have the ability, right, to make a difference in a different way. Again, that's why people like me are here, right? We're like experienced professionals aren't going to be taking, crazy risks that we all know from our professional lives. So we're a little more grown up around how we think about it. There's just a lot more process to it. That's why here the exposure and the ability to access stuff that and do things that it's just not like there's an army of like 180 people. No, it's not the like our product team's going to be pretty small, right? They're like 20 people. So everybody's got to roll up their sleeves and do something, which gives you the opportunity to learn more, in my view, than it is if you're just like, one analyst of 550 in like one line of, Citibank's business. That helps.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack. Next up I see is Andrew.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. Craig, I just wanted to ask you, so I had the opportunity to speak with someone with a similar background to you, where he started an American institution and then he got recruited to work at SMBC. And one of the biggest differences that he talked about was the difference in culture between an American firm and a Japanese one. What would you say the biggest differences have been in your case? And do you prefer the culture of a Japanese-based firm or an American one? Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And there definitely are different cultural norms around I would tell you that in my prior experience, it was, a little bit more direct, a little bit more aggressive in terms of how we approach things. I would say here it's a little bit more thoughtful, which I think is a good thing. But I would also tell you that we've been asked, I was specifically told to break China, right, and move us in a faster approach. So that's what I'm trying to do in terms of building this business in a cultural mindset of we want to be great. We're not going to settle. We're going to run fast, right? We're going to like have a good time doing it. For me, the ability to balance, and it's important to balance. You never want to be too far one way or too far the other. You want to be in the middle, especially again, we talk about risk management as in the financial institutions space and what that means. You want to balance that. But here, honestly, I found the culture, the people being incredibly friendly, incredibly supportive, and more team oriented than I think you'll see at other banks. The American banks, everyone's kind of out for themselves here. It seems to be for the greater good, which is a nice, refreshing and honestly just fun. It's easier to trust people and build partnerships and do great work, more importantly. So I hope that answers the question, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Andrew. Next up is William.
Hi, I'm Will Mara. I'm a senior at Purdue University. You guys have been talking about how quickly you want to be moving this process. I know that's been kind of a pinpoint for you guys. Where I'm curious is like, so you guys won't be hiring until June or so, or we won't be starting until June. So my question is kind of where you guys are now, and then where do we fit in on that timeline, and kind of how big your team is as well.
Yeah, no. So right now it's a team of 3. It'll be up at 165 at its peak. And we're using consultants to fill the gap to move. So my first commitment when I came in, the ask was March of 26 to have the first release. I told them I'll do it a quarter before that. So this time next year, literally fourth quarter of 25, we'll be live. So the summer will be a busy time for us for sure. I have no doubt about that. Yeah, so we're trying to change the dynamic. People have said, "Oh, you should do it." No, we can do things faster. We should push ourselves out of our comfort zone. We should challenge ourselves to be the best version of who we can all be professionally. So that's kind of the timeline, William. So again, we're running quick. I'll go Boilermakers, and I guess we'll move on to the next question.
Thanks, William. Next question will come from Catherine Bell.
Hi, my name's Catherine. I'm a junior at Columbia University right now, and I was just wondering, what are some of the current trends or changes that you guys are seeing in client needs that SMBC is trying to adapt into its cash management services?
Yeah, good question, Catherine. I would say that, as technologies have evolved and the use of kind of like we look at our phone and get everything instantly, and the ability, right, to move things and make payments and see stuff super fast. If you look at what the systems that corporations typically use, their enterprise payment systems are older. So the ability to use APIs to get real-time balances is something that's kind of newer in the space. The instant payment thing, again, it's only a year old in the US. Not many organizations are using that. That's kind of another trend that we're starting to see. So those are 2 kind of areas. The third piece I would definitely highlight is tools that banks can provide around fraud. So fraud's a big word, right? You send a Venmo, you can't get it back. There are certain types of payments you send, you can't get back. Others you can. Making sure, especially when they're paying, again, their transactions are much larger than any of us would pay on a regular basis in our daily lives. So if you're paying a $2 million payment, you want to make sure it's going to the right place. It's not fraudulent. How do I check that? So there's a lot of interesting and new tools and capabilities we'll be implementing to allow clients to get comfort around Craig's who he says he is. The account number is his. There hasn't been fraud on the account. There haven't been a lot of return items, which again, it could be an indication of fraud. The address is what he says it is. So there are things you can do to kind of provide some level of comfort and assurance to corporations that fraud is not apparent, but fraud is the number one topic, I would say, in the industry today. And that's where, and again, there are these people who, somehow create the email address that looks like the current one, right? And says, "Hey, I've got a big deal in China, wire me $3 million. And when I tell you this happens on a daily basis, I will also tell you in my prior life, what I did was I put a team to kind of, we noticed certain geographies getting higher and higher fraud levels. So what we tried to do is put a team, putting like eyes on glass, like alerts kicking out. And every day we would say, okay, we're going to start at 15,000. Anything at 15,000, we want to check with the client. And I can assure you that within 24 hours, the frauds went to 14.5. Then it went to 14. These guys are super clever. They're using like levels of technology depth and data centers that you can't fathom. They're mainly nation states as well. That's how they're funding themselves, because the embargoes on the payments and the goods and services has limited their ability to function as a country. So it's very hard to keep up. But we're going to do the best we can with our clients. We're going to train them on how to look for signs of fraud, and we're going to try to provide tools that enable them. That's, I think, the biggest trend.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Next on, move on to Christopher.
Hi, guys. Thank you for being here today. My name's Christopher. I'm a junior at UNCG, and I have two questions, if that's all right. My first one being, like, what is a money market account? I know that has like a $1 NAV, and it's usually in high debt that is like highly liquid. And I'm wondering how you manage risk, or how is risk managed in a money market so you have high liquidity and it doesn't go below $1 NAV. And if that's something that your company does or works with providers of money market funds. And then for my second question is, what are your clients using for short-term cash management? Is it, or what is popular with like CDs, money market, treasury bills, foreign debt, or like corporate bonds?
Sure. Kelly, you want to take that one? You want me to do it?
Yeah. I would say this, I'll answer the second question maybe first. In terms of short-term investment options, I would say it's a mix of what I see. There's some that use like daily liquidity in bank accounts or time deposits with banks. Very, very liquid type of solutions, but there's also some that use investment products from other brokers too, that look at kind of longer term strategies as well. So there's kind of a mix. And then on the money market side, I would say there's a lot of different I guess solutions out there for the money market piece, but it tends to be more shorter term underlying, and a lot of it can also be government facing as well on the underlying assets that are there too. So helps balance some of that risk reward mix that comes into play when looking at money market funds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question comes from Tyler. Hey, Tyler, we can't hear you. Are you
Yeah,
on
we
mute
can't hear
still?
you.
Do you want to try to type it in the chat real quick? I know you've been waiting in line. As you type that up, Tyler, oh, there we go. Okay, never mind. Let's see. What are the key what are some of the key challenges and opportunities that the cash management department facing in the current market of technology advancements, economic challenges, and cybersecurity threats?
Yeah, no, so it's all about the technology, to your point, right? And I think historically, Tyler, right, as you get age systems like we have here, which is what we're fixing, right, and trying to revamp, it comes with a lot of technical debt. Every little thing you do is harder to do, it's more expensive to do. So that's kind of one aspect of, modernizing it. You need to kind of get the stuff up to speed. The way in which we're also, thinking about it from a technology perspective, the development we're doing will be in an agile technology development framework, which is sprints every 2 weeks, people working collaboratively in rooms together with Post-its and stickies everywhere, and doing things in a very rapid pace, which is why I'm comfortable that we can do some pretty great stuff pretty quickly. But the cybersecurity piece is something every bank, especially banks, but every organization, it seems like, is like, trying to block those threats. And sometimes it becomes cumbersome, right, for the capabilities, right, to validate yourself, the dual authentication and the like. But it's necessary, right, to protect the data of those who are trying to steal it. And I can assure you they're always trying to steal it. So I think those are all critical aspects of what we got to do here. I think, technologies is the linchpin. I mean, if you think about banking and the most cool aspects of what's occurred in the past 10 to 15 years, even going back to the ATM, whatever that 30 years ago, right? All those things, right? The ability to take a picture of a check from your phone and deposit it, the way to move money in an instant way. That's technology is the wave, man. It's definitely interesting. Protecting that though, and making sure that you're protecting, guarding your assets is a different challenge. But I think that those are kind of critical aspects of banking in general. And again, we're addressing those in the cash management space.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Tyler. Let's see. Next up is Isaac.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Craig, Kelly, Caitlin, for your guys' time today. Real grateful to be here. Senior studying accounting at Cal State Fullerton here in California. Actually, just recently completed an internship with JP Morgan in the leverage finance division. So nice to connect with somebody who's been there previously. But my question is similar or relating to the cash management analyst program. Like, what's the typical growth path for an analyst here at SMBC, and how does that compare to maybe a similar cash management analyst at a different firm?
I'll take that one since I've had, many in my career at JP Morgan. I think the difference here is it's a smaller organization, so we're a little more scrappy. So people are not necessarily confined to like, oh, this is all you're going to be doing. Like at JP Morgan, we had my cash management team alone on the product side was over 300 people. Here, we're going to be like a much smaller group. So everyone's going to do a little bit of everything, right? Which is kind of, it's kind of the fun of it, where you're not limiting yourselves, especially when you're early in your career, right? It's like, I always like think about it as kind of like a toolbox, right? You're trying to collect different things to put in that box in terms of skills, tools that you can, figure out what you want to be when you grow up. In this team, there'll be the ability to do, marketing, product development, technology. Everyone's doing everything, right? So it's not like, oh, we don't have that. We have everything as a startup, basically, right? So here, I think the difference is you'll get a lot more hands-on for sure than larger institutions where you're kind of more narrowly defined in your space. And again, it's a smaller team, so everybody's doing a little bit of everything. So I think you'll get the opportunity to explore, to see what you like and don't like, which is part of what internship should be about, right? I enjoyed that. I didn't like that. I don't want to do that again, or I loved it. I want to do it 20 more times. So that's part of like just maturing as an individual professionally. I think on this team, you'll have the opportunity to do a lot of different things to see what you like and don't like, to be quite honest. There'll be this finance, there's all sorts of things we're going to be doing here. We got to track all the money we're spending somehow. But again, I think it'll be, a lot of data focus on targeting clients, not only, clients we feel we can get business from, what business, how do we engage in that conversation? What are the talking points? How do we track whether we won or lost, why we won, how do we do that again? Does it apply to others? That's the stuff Kelly and the team are working on. So I think you'll get a flavor of a lot of different things. Hope that helps. Thanks for joining us during your lunchtime as well, Isaac.
Thank you. Very insightful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Isaac. Was it Ishika? Were you next?
Hi guys, thanks for giving us the opportunity to learn. You guys basically touched on some of my questions about innovation and where basically, obviously, artificial intelligence comes into play with cybersecurity and hacking. And I'm just trying to understand where really you want the team to lead all these initiatives and really capture the big picture of basically getting cash funds and securing cash between clients.
Yeah, no. So it's kind of a little big and little picture, right? So the big picture, we kind of know where we want to be. We have a vision of what the business is going to be when we're at our end state. And then the little picture is really the little ways of executing around that strategy, right? I think it's Edison's quote, right? Strategy without execution is hallucination. So here we're going to make sure that we're focused on kind of the day-to-day and executing what we're supposed to do. And if we're missing the mark, why is that? We got to learn from it. Do we need to adjust our strategy? Do we think we thought clients were going to buy it? We talked to a bunch. They're not buying it. What do we do wrong? Is it the way I'm saying it? The way I'm selling it? Is it the way the product's been built? That's why the incremental co-creation with clients along the way and showing them every screen, every capability will allow us to guarantee a higher likelihood of success, so to speak. But still keeping on our vision of what we want to be, which is client-backed. We want to be digital. There's a whole bunch of things we want to develop a commercial engine that's robust, that can last the test of time. 50 years from now, people will be like, oh yeah, they set something up that was pretty cool and we're still using in terms of how we run a business, the rigor of it, measuring ROE, measuring revenues, measuring client engagement, looking at ratios, to balance ratio, to deposit ratios. Are we getting our fair share? Are we not? I mean, it's the stuff that, fortunately, many of us have have seen and experienced, right? Best in class, want to implement that here, right? So that's what I've been here brought in to do, is kind of raise our game a bit in this space. And honestly, I think we're going to be hugely successful based on the conversation with the client and the great talent that we've already identified in people like Kelly.
Mm.
Hope that
And
helps you.
to
Sorry,
add
go
on that too, like what Craig is saying, I think all of that builds trust in the market that we have a solution that meets clients' needs, and that ultimately we're easy to work with too, that we have the latest technology, that everything that clients set up with us is pretty seamless too. But I think at the core of everything, building the trust when you're managing people's cash, it's similar on the personal side. You want to make sure that the bank that you're using is able to deliver. So building that is going to be key.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just so you all know, we are coming up on time soon, so we'll probably take another possibly 2 or 3 questions, and then just wanted to quickly wrap up. Okay, so the next question would come from Pam.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nipam Patel. I'm a senior at University of Delaware. So during my last internship at JP Morgan, I was introduced to the Agile methodology, and it kind of really fascinated me about how managers like utilize it to manage initiatives and improve their productivity. So I'm aware that SMBC also puts a lot of emphasis on using Agile. So I was curious about how the front office groups utilize and apply Agile methodology onto their day-to-day operations.
Well, I mean, in this case, right, it's going to be more around the technology build and how we do it, less so on the front end, but it will be around kind of the screens and the portal and the engagement with the clients. And again, it'll be, short 2-week sprints of how we build stuff, how we test stuff, going back to clients to do it. So Agile is more on the tech side, but it will be on the front end in terms of the client engagement piece. In terms of what Kelly and her team do from a front end sales perspective, they'll be moving in an Agile way, but not necessarily using Agile development frameworks to do that. But I am interested in, creating the dashboards and the capabilities that the sales organization, Kelly and others, can use to quickly assess where the opportunity is. But you can create it in a way that has triggers that say, hey, this might be an opportunity because this ratio's clicked, or something's intro, they moved money, or they did this, or again, mining the data of what's going in and out of bank accounts is a way I've always found to be successful, because you can see who else they're banking with. Because again, most corporations are using somewhere between 10 and 15 corporate banks in terms of who they're doing business with. So we want to get the business we want that's profitable for us. I'll let them choke on the bad stuff that I can't make money on, right? So you got to think a little bit more around, how we can leverage every iota of data to be great, right? And I use the analogy sometimes around, you want to go in a schoolyard and take their lunch money, right, from our competitors. And for sure, here there's a great opportunity to do that because we don't really have enough in our pockets. So I think there's, being strategic, and again, the messaging that Kelly will deliver to a client that banks at Bank of New York will be different than MUFG. That'll be different than, I don't know, Citibank, right? It's going to be a targeted messaging and talking points about why we're better versus each of them. So it'll be an agile sales approach in terms of that dynamic in terms of how we engage, but the technology piece is definitely an agile framework. I hope that helps.
No, that helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And then this possibly will be our last question, but that will go to Patrick.
This great opportunity. I love hearing the words innovative, new, small team. I'm currently interning at a small firm called Graybox Investments with just 3 employees. So it's a great sympathies there. I'm a senior at UAB, or University of Alabama at Birmingham. I was just wondering real quick, are there any specific tools or money market models you use on a company-wide level that we could familiarize ourselves with when measuring default risk or the right product allocation? Or is it kind of up to the analyst to find these new methods or models depending on the type of client or product, given that it's a fairly small team?
I'll let Kel take it from a sales perspective if she'd like.
Yeah, I don't think there's any real real model. It's a matter of making sure that clients have options and are able to use and select the best investment alternative that meets their need, whether from a tenor perspective or just an overall all mix perspective too, that I think plays into that when they look at that risk reward metric when they're looking at their more short-term funding needs, I guess. I don't know if that really answers the
Yeah.
question, but no
Thank you.
real
Yeah.
no real model, I would say.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Unfortunately, I don't believe we have additional time for questions, but I appreciate everyone who was able to join today, and for all those who were able to ask really great questions for Kelly and Craig. Thank you once again to Kelly and Craig for presenting and for answering all the amazing questions that came through today. Just wanted to quickly wrap up here as we're coming to time. Again, as shown on the screen, we do hire for a lot of these different parts of the business, but for summer 2025, a lot of that recruitment has been completed other than our amazing cash management department. So right now in the chat, I will be sending out our application for the cash management department internship. Applications do close today at 5 p.m. Eastern. So please do apply as soon as possible. So that way we can include you while we do our reviews. Just so you know, once you apply, if you meet all basic qualifications, you will receive a pre-recorded video interview link where you'll record you answering some of our interview questions. From there, our team will review all of your information and we will share in the upcoming weeks. If you are invited to one of our upcoming Super Days, all candidates will have an update by early November. If you have any questions, I did also in that message with the link, I put our campus recruitment mailbox. So please do reach out to that mailbox if you have any questions in regards to the process or any questions that may have happened today. Other than that, again, thank you once again, everyone, for joining. We are really appreciative of taking the time to learn more about SMBC and our cash management group.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yep, Chris, I'll take it.
I've already applied, and I'm a senior now, so I'd be a full time. So my consideration would come out in November 1st as well. I've already done my pre-interview as well online.
Yep. So all candidates will be updated as we finish up recruitment for our 2025 roles.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Yeah, of course.